This is John for the Patch and Johngy's Beat. Today I have the pleasure of being on the beat with writer, director, comedian, dancer, producer. Did I miss anything? Emily Ramirez.
Hi, thanks for having me, John.
You wear so many hats. I couldn't even keep it all straight.
Yeah.
How busy are you right now?
Um, I I mean, I don't have it's funny because I don't have the kind of schedule like a 9 to 5 kind of like finite schedule that a lot of other people have. So during the day, like Tuesdays, for example, are days that I'm off. But when I'm off are when I take the time to work on things like my side projects, like trying to open a comedy club and maybe writing for Divorce Diaries, something like that. And then when I'm actually on the clock, it's when I'm either doing an improv show or teaching ballet. I teach ballet to 3 different studios around the city for several hours per night, a couple nights, 3 nights a week. So, um,
So before we get into it, tell us a little bit about your background.
yeah, so kind of going back to the ballet teaching. So I was a professional ballerina for 10 years. That was sort of like my whole life path. I was very, very committed to that from the time I was a very little girl and trained very seriously all through school. And then was in a ballet company. I sort of like forewent the college route to do like a pre-professional dance training track, like at Houston Ballet. And then I was dancing in a ballet company at age 20, and I did that for 10 years and loved it. And then, of course, ballet has a very finite end to the career, which is interesting. You give so much time to it, and then it kind of like there's always an end result. Um, and mine actually, my career ended a little bit prematurely because I had a knee injury.
Oh,
So I had 2 surgeries, ended up that I still could dance, but maybe not like at the level that I could before. And I had always wanted to get into, I'm gonna pick up my dog really quick because he's like,
sure, sure.
Mommy, come here. Oh, wait, no, he's like, I want you to go into the living room with me. Well, that's not happening, Charlie. Um, I had always wanted to explore musical theater. I love singing. My dad was like a weekend gigging musician, and grew up seeing him perform, and I loved it, and I always loved singing. So I started taking voice lessons while I was still on crutches from my second knee surgery, and started getting into musicals, performing musicals very quickly, quicker than I thought it would, and eventually, did some principal roles in some regional companies. And then I booked the Phantom of the Opera North American tour, which was a huge uh, uh, pleasure and honor, and did that for a while. And while I was on tour, I was starting to become a little bit creatively starved, which I know sounds odd when you're doing like 8 shows a week on a Broadway show. But it seemed so strange that like the end result for all of this training and all of this ability was to do the exact same thing, forever, kind of seemingly. So to mix things up a little bit, I was like, I've always loved comedy. I've always loved SNL. That's kind of always what I've, um, ingested in my free time. So I was looking up, how do people get onto SNL? What kind of, how do they learn how to do what they do? And Second City kept coming up. So while the Phantom of the Opera tour was had a month-long residency in Chicago, I took a week-long workshop in improv and sketch writing, and I fell in love. So that was in 2016. And then I continued with that during tour. I started doing stand-up around different cities, which is kind of cool because I would do stand up and then be like, all right, bye. So if it didn't go well, it was like very low stakes. And then I relocated here and got really, really like head first dove into comedy.
No, I'm always fascinated. Like, you said you started out as a professional ballerina. That's not an easy field to get into. It's very limited, I would think. How
Yep.
did you know, or when did you know that you had the ability to do that? How did you have the courage to say, I'm going to do this? I'm going to beat the odds?
Well, I I don't think I don't think many dancers go, "Oh, I have a talent for this. I think I'll pursue it." The level of whether you're naturally like facilitated for ballet or not, which there's arguably certain physical attributes that make you more facilitated than other people. There are certain, musical attributes. There's a lot of different factors, but beyond all of that, it is impossible to become a professional ballerina without doing like extensive training. So it's a little bit of a meritocracy more so than things even like singing to an extent, because you can teach yourself to sing maybe not obviously to the level of somebody classically trained in opera, but you can teach yourself to sing listening to the radio. That's what I did. And with ballet, you really have to get like a very strong foundation with education. So I watched an episode of Mr. Rogers when I was 2, and he visited a ballet company, and I was like, "Mommy, I want to be a ballerina," and she was like, "Okay." And then she kind of, 2 years old, 2-year-olds. I'm sure the next thing I said was probably like, "Mommy, I want to be a hot dog." I don't know. And um, so she kind of just let that simmer for a while. And 2 years later, I was still bugging her about it. So she was like, fine. And she enrolled me. And so I was one of those unique kids that was just like laser focused on this very, very long shot career. And I think that's part of, to answer your question, why I got into it, because I was too young to know. And my parents didn't really know anything about the ballet world either. We were all too young and naive to know what I was trying to accomplish. But I believe in any art form, whatever you love to do, if you just keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it for the love of it, good things will come of that. Maybe not what you expect, but good things will come of that. So,
So you eventually got into comedy, you said,
mhm.
and stand up. What progressed after that? I know you did stand up, but you're also a writer. You've got your own comedy business going.
Yeah. I took the Second City sketch writing like work, not the workshop, the sketch writing program. So it's like a full, I think it ended up being like a year and a half or 2 years, probably 2 years of sketch writing training. And I absolutely adored it. I've always liked writing. And to learn that there was something kind of formulaic to it, and it wasn't just a matter of like, oh my gosh, I would look at sketches on SNL and just be like, how are these people so funny? I don't understand it. And then to see that there's almost a little bit of a science to it was heartening for somebody like me who loves like discipline and education. And I'm like, all right, I think I have a comedic sensibility, but also if it's something that can be taught and can be honed and improved, I'm absolutely willing to do that work, because that's sort of the way I've always operated. So I started doing sketch writing after that workshop that I took at Second City while I was still on tour. I continued to do sketch writing um, remotely. So I was actually taking sketch writing classes. I was writing sketches like in the dressing rooms of different theaters across the country. And then I would write some stuff and I would be like, you know what, that's like more of a one-liner. That's like a joke. That's not really, doesn't have legs enough to make a sketch out of it, but it's funny. So I started this little notes like on the notes app on your iPhone. I started a stand-up note file and then a sketch idea note file, and I just kept on adding to the stand-up thing until I had pages and pages and pages of material, and was like, I should just see what happens and go up and try it. So stand-up is one of my favorite things to write, but it it continues to be one of the scariest things for me to do. So I tend to not do it very often.
That was going to be my next question. How nervous are you going up there? You've done it for several years. Do you still get really nervous
I
about
get
going
really
up?
nervous. I get really, really nervous. When you're performing in a sketch, or even when you've written a sketch, you can hide behind the characters that you create. You can hide your point of view behind, an entirely different situation that can't necessarily be traced back to you. So you feel a little bit less exposed. When you walk on stage in stand up, first of all, people are taking in and making a lot of assumptions based on just what they're seeing, which has always been very um I don't know. I don't like that. I don't like it. And so, especially because when you're a ballerina or former ballerina, people I'm not used to people making comments about my body, my posture, everything for my whole life, and it's not necessarily something I'm proud of or comfortable with. It's just kind of part of being a ballerina. And so to put that on stage and then be like, hey, here are the thoughts from like deep within the back of my mind, and I'm asking for this whole room's attention, and I hope I can make it worth it for you. That's a lot of pressure.
But isn't it a lot of pressure too, though, when you're writing a sketch for somebody else and they have to perform it?
There's certainly a great amount of responsibility, and I think going to Divorce Diaries, which I realized I didn't answer your question about that. I was performing at the Comedy Shrine. I was like one of their professional on their improv house team, so I was doing short form improv shows Fridays and Saturdays, and then I also produced my own show called It's That Time of the Month, which is like a feminist variety show. And So there was Michele Traina happened to be touring her show Divorce Diaries, um, on the same weekend, I think, that I was doing my It's That Time of the Month show. And then following that, we were doing an improv show. So she saw my show, then she was in our improv show with us, and we just immediately had a great rapport. There's so much that I admire about her. She's so driven, she's so positive, she's such a hard worker. Um, and so expressive and so vulnerable, and those are things that I constantly aspire to be all the time. And so I really gravitated toward her. So when it came time for her to start looking for a production team, looking for a writing team, my name was tossed in the hat, and we had a more formal conversation about it, and continued to hit it off. So, and I think we balance each other out very well as far as the writing portion goes, because she is a wealth of ideas and experiences and thoughts and opinions, which is so great. That's, it's a huge, deep well to mine from as a writer. But then because I have a lot of experience with, I love like editing. When I do when I have film sketches, one of my favorite things to do is like the part where I get into the editing and I get to get that timing just right and cut out, to trim all the fat and all that stuff. And so, and then also, I've directed musicals, I've directed full sketch shows, and so I have a really good ability to kind of back way, way, way up and kind of be like, okay, what is the, if you had to put this whole episode to one sentence, like a one sentence thesis, what would it be? Globally, what are you trying to do? So I think I help kind of encourage a little bit of a shape to it so that she has lots of room to kind of ping around inside of that, um, which is cool. So yeah, there's a lot of responsibility when you're writing for other people because you don't want to write something that is gonna be offensive to the audience and then turn the audience against the actors whose fault is not their own. You don't want to make them vulnerable to perform in a way that they're not comfortable performing, which, there's sort of a fine line between, oh, push yourself to your boundaries of comfort. And then there's like, hey, have you ever tap danced? No, let's have you do a tap dance solo in this sketch for no reason. Like you want to make sure, at least I do, I want to make sure that my actors know their value. I want to make sure that they are presented as well as possible, and that at the end of the show, it's not necessarily like, oh, Emily wrote a great show, Emily directed a great show. It's like those actors were hilarious. So that's fun.
So, how would you describe for people that haven't seen it, they're not aware of it yet? How would you describe Divorce Diaries?
I would say, first of all, it's unlike anything I've seen because I think in the TV landscape right now, we're starting to see many more versions of what a family looks like, what relationships look like, what a woman and her career looks like. But we haven't really seen this exact amalgamation of being a single mom who's divorced, trying to date, um, and also who's the comedian. I mean, that alone, to be a female and a comedian, is still ridiculously uncommon. I mean, it's improving all the time, but I have to say, in general, when I do a showcase or when I do an open mic for stand up, I am typically one of about maybe up to 20% of
Wow.
the other women in the group. Sometimes I'm the only woman. Um, and that obviously comes with its own issues because uh, well, there's a lot of issues with that. I won't even bore you with it. Um, but yeah, so seeing her struggle and her vulnerability with that too, to see how that combination of characteristics can create unique issues in your life. And also she's such a Jersey girl, and has got that Italian family, and so really, really strong character voices in her foundation, but then adding to that this like really unique goal of trying to be a comedian, this and then tying that into the pressures of trying to be a good mom, and the double standards of dating when you're a single person, as a single mom as opposed to a single dad, all that fun stuff. So it's unique.
No, I was at the show last Saturday. Well, I'm losing track of time. I was at the show last Saturday. Fantastic, loved it, absolutely
Yeah.
loved it. It was cool to meet you all backstage. How will the TV show differ, or how will it be similar to that? Because I mean that's a one woman show, so how will the
Yeah.
TV show be?
I think, as you said in your review about it, you feel kind of like you're talking to your friend from across the coffee table. And I think she really brings that into the show. You feel it has a very sort of fly on the wall kind of vibe to it in certain aspects where you're seeing this person in all of their, glory and all of their, failures, whatever they are. And I think similarly in the way that she tells these stories on stage with that self-deprecation and just like her absolute charm, she's doing the same thing and we're just kind of like fleshing out those stories and we're creating new stories. And obviously when you start bringing in more writers with different points of views, maybe their own life experiences, we're able to kind of like add, things to dress up the stories to make them faster paced, to make them really just as funny as possible. And so it'll be different because you'll be seeing, rather than hearing her recounting it, you'll be seeing that life happen to her, which I think is going to be even better.
Well, I love the show. I encourage everyone to check it out, and I can't wait to see the TV show. I can't wait to see the special because that's the
Yeah,
Amazon Prime special is going to be super cool.
I
But
know.
before I let you go, is there anything you want to promote about yourself, about anything? It's your time now.
Well, I mean, follow babscomedyclub.com. That's my LLC I just formed this summer. My goal is to open a brick and mortar comedy club in one of the western suburbs of Chicago. But for now, I produce shows remotely at different theaters, and then we also do private parties, corporate events, corporate edutainment kind of stuff. So I've basically been building up our brand by doing this remote work and also building a little bit of a financial kind of seed money for the brick and mortar. So yeah, babscomedyclub.com. Follow that if you're looking for a show in your theater, if you're looking for entertainment at your party. We do tons of different kinds of stuff. So that's my main goal right now in the comedy world, and what I would love for people to enjoy.
And check out Divorce Diaries in Chicago on New Year's Eve. I'm
Yes.
not in Chicago, technically not Chicago. It's Wheaton.
Yes,
It's
Wheaton,
Chicago.
Illinois at West Side Improv. Yeah, we'll be there doing another show on New Year's Eve. So ring in the new year with laughter. It's the best medicine.
I can't think of a better way. It's hilarious. As Michelle says, it's healing through humor. It's really lighthearted. It's fun. It's funny when you were describing Michelle. I don't know you very well. I just kind of met you last weekend, just talked to you now. But everything you said about Michelle just seems to be you. Strong, driven, funny. All those just seem to be you, and it's probably why you guys make a great pair on this.
I think so. I know that the culture, and it's getting better, but I know that the culture in this country is that we love to see women fighting, we love to see women competing. And the reality is, and this is something I think Michelle and I both understand a lot, is that we are so much better together. We're better when we build each other up, when we support each other, when we help each other. When you try to bring the best out of other people. And I strongly believe that there's room for all of us to eat at the table. So her success does not preclude my own, vice versa. And I would love for us to all kind of get to the top together. So
But you guys are headed there. I mean, I truly, truly enjoyed it. I really appreciate your time. I thank you. I encourage everyone to check out your site, check out Divorce Diaries, and look for the TV show and look for your comedy club. I'm in Chicago, so when that thing opens, I will be there.
yeah, I'll let you know. It's I'm hoping to put it in Forest Park. So that's what I'm
Perfect.
hoping for right now.
So 20 minutes from me, I'll be there.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much, John.
Emily, thank you very much for your time, and you have a great day, and hopefully I'll see you soon.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye.